Now, the Western Cape government is set to oppose the postponement of the October 27th local government elections. This as the Electoral Commission of South Africa is expected to apply for the postponement in the Constitutional Court on Friday. The IEC is launching a bid to have the upcoming municipal elections moved to February 2022. Joining me now to talk more on this is Western Cape MEC for Local Government, Environmental Affairs and Development Planning, Anton Bredell. Anton, good to have you with us tonight here on In Focus.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity.
The IEC indicating that they will be approaching a competent court, or approaching a court of competent jurisdiction to seek an order to have a deferral of the local government elections. And they're saying this largely is informed by the report of Judge Dikgang Moseneke, which argues that unless there's great immunity through mass vaccination, the safe and free and fair elections would not be possible. Do you have a counter-argument to that?
Well, first of all, I think as a government, it's our role to protect the Constitution. Free and fair elections, frequent elections, is one of the pillars within the Constitution. It's a right that's enshrined in the Constitution. And if you look at the Moseneke report and you read through the report, you can see that scientists differ on this. That one of the lead scientists within the country states that he's of the opinion that there's no better time than October to have the elections. There's no guarantees that if the election will be February next year or even later, that we won't be in a fourth wave or even worse. So the Chapter 9 institution, the Electoral Commission, the role that they should fulfill is to ensure that we've got free and fair elections. That's their role, and that's our stance to protect the Constitution. We think it's the right thing to have the elections on 27th of October. Yeah.
You don't think the precondition should be put in place that more South Africans should rather have greater immunity through the mass vaccination program?
Yes, obviously we run a vaccination program. We run a registration program, first of all, to register people to get vaccinated, but there's no guarantees in any case. And the IEC, or the Electoral Commission, their name has changed, is now the Electoral Commission. They presented in May this year. You must remember that we're now 18 months in COVID. They presented in May this year before the Standing Committee for Local Government in the Western Cape readiness program, and at that stage, according to them, they were ready to run the election. So I don't know why they should switch that stance, but we still believe that if Zambia held the election, other countries held the election, we have held internal elections within this province and in the country, that we can pull this off.
Yeah. How will this impact on other planned electoral activities? I mean, already the voter registration weekend has been postponed, and what would be then the rolling impact of that on all the other activities?
Well, there's a couple of things that will happen. First of all, we must see what the Constitutional Court announcement will be on this, because from where we sit, we think that the right system, if you want to postpone the election, you must at least follow the right process, and that process will not be the Constitutional Court, that will be Parliament. Go back to Parliament, have the debate there. What has currently happened overnight, the election was declared, meaning that the voters' roll closed. So now people can't register anymore. The voters' roll is closed, so you will take that right away. So obviously within this court case, we hope that they will also announce that there must be a registration weekend, and that's something that we will also push very hard.
The implications of continuing, for example, to have the local government elections in October, other opposition parties have argued that this will not give them adequate time, for example, to do their campaigning, considering that for a large part of the year, the country has been on lockdown level 4.
Well, I don't buy that argument. It's the same with the Electoral Commission. They know that in 2024 we will have a national provincial election. They know it 5 years ahead of time. All political parties know that. So everybody was quite aware of the 2021 local government elections. They should have geared up. They should have get their systems in place. One thing that we also do differ if you read through the papers of the Moseneke report, is the assumption that the only way to have a free and fair election is through mass gatherings. We're now into an electronic era. There's many ways to campaign. There's many ways to get the voters to vote. You don't need mass gatherings. You don't need events that can spread the virus. If you get your vaccination program up and running, if you've got your systems up and running, there's no reason why you can't have free, fair and safe elections.
Well, there are organizations who would argue with that, Anton, and say a majority of our voters are in rural parts of South Africa where there is not a lot of connection there. We might not have the same privilege, so to speak, to be able to get them via digital platforms. Some of them don't even trust digital platforms. They would rather have face-to-face, in-person consultation and engagement.
Well, obviously, we've spent over the years in the Western Cape a lot of money to get people connected. That's arguments that the court will look at. I think that's arguments that we should have had in Parliament. We still believe that if you postpone this election, the Constitution is a threat, because getting to February next year and we enter a fourth wave, what then? There's also political parties that will argue you cannot have it in February, you must go to June next year. So that's another 6 months postponement. At the end of the day, there won't be an election. What then? Then democracy is at risk. And we still believe that looking at the systems that's available, that you can have an election 27th of October with minimum risk to the people and get the people's will to govern and get the government in place which the people want them to govern.
The other issue identified by the report is that South Africans are likely to stay away from the polls in large numbers due to concerns around COVID-19. Are you not concerned that even some of your members would do exactly the same?
Yeah, no, we're concerned about, if you look at by-elections, we're always concerned about the people staying away, but that's not only because of COVID. I think a lot of people we need to talk to, and the politicking of the day, the negative news reportings within the whole corruption scandals, etc., in the news, it's all adding to people staying away and say, listen, there's no party that I want to vote for. So that's something that all political parties needs to address, because currently there's a huge number of people. There's around about 9 million people that's not even registered currently to vote. And we need to get the people to vote, because that's a core pillar within democracy, that the people must elect their government.
Realistically speaking, we're already midway August. The papers are being heard by the court on Friday. We don't know how soon we'll get that judgment coming out. And then you have September, then it's October. Is that still a realistic time frame to be able to hold local government elections?
Well, obviously, we believe in the rule of law, so the judgment we will abide to. I still believe there's a possibility that the court can just tell the IEC to go back to Parliament, and then we will take the debate to Parliament. That's also a reality. But if you look at the time frames set out by the Electoral Commission, they need 18 days to pull off a registration weekend. So within that time frame, and with the electronic that's available, the zip-zap machines, those kind of things, if you register, you're automatically on the voters roll. We still can pull it off, yes. And we must remember, nowhere in the legislation it puts that the election must be the 27th or must be on a Wednesday. So the 1st of November is still an option, it's still within the 90 days of the previous election. So the 1st of October will buy us another 4 days. But mainly, I think this argument needs to be made in Parliament.
We appreciate your time for joining us tonight here on In Focus. Thank you very much, MEC, for local government there in the Western Cape, Anton Bredell.